Welcome in to another episode of Betting the Pitch. I am your host, the real underscore G Warner. It is Friday, early morning in Dallas, Texas, US of A. And we are going to talk about the top 5 European soccer leagues, try to give a best bet for each country and an ultimate best bet end of show. I know you're all sticking around. Topsy-turvy performances by me lately, trying to get a little more consistency. Seems like I'm either having an undefeated day or a tough one. So trying to keep those undefeated days going, or I probably need to hit 65%, it feels like, in this sport to really make you guys some money. And that's the goal. So we're going to try to win every play we make. And without further ado, all lines on this podcast are quoted courtesy of Bet Online, my favorite place to play to get bets down early, and with reduced juice offered on almost every game you could want, right up until game time. I suggest you make an account. If you don't have one yet, please use the promo code found in the podcast description, and you can fund your account. I think they give you 100% match bonus. Don't quote me on that just yet. Let me know what they give you. Hopefully it's something good. But that promo code will be in the bottom, or I guess it'll be a link in the bottom of this podcast description. Thank you if you're joining on YouTube or on Twitter or on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts. If you can give a 5-star review, subscribe, do all that sort of stuff, I'd really appreciate it, because it gets me higher up the search table, and hopefully I'll have more time to put more energy, emphasis, all those sort of things into these podcasts, though I don't think anyone is questioning the amount of energy coming in. So we're going to start where the money is, and that is the English Premier League, which does not have a Friday match, but we start on Saturday bright and early with Nottingham Forest hosting Liverpool. Currently Nottingham Forest, a 1 3/4 goal underdog, coming off a beautiful performance for them, which was goalless, a draw during the middle of the week. I don't know if that's a beautiful performance because their goal scoring is non-existent at this point, unfortunately. They're looking like a team that's going to be relegated. Unfortunately, all the trying to fill holes with a lot of money spent. I feel like a lot of those players are going to be sold in the offseason, but ultimately they're still fighting in there, and they have a very, very complicated matchup here. Really, it's more complicated on the Liverpool side. When you back in the day on Facebook, instead of putting in a relationship, you put it's complicated with. I feel like Liverpool is a perfect description there. I feel like they're always dealing with injuries. I don't know if it's Juve or Liverpool that have the worst medical staffs in the world. Maybe it's just the aged players that either of these two teams have. But Liverpool is a 1 3/4 goal favorite on the road, is asking a lot for them to win a lopsided match, because ultimately they aren't playing with their preferred lineup, preferred team at this point. Mohamed Salah, I mean, every day he gets older, as we all do, but I do wonder if that's kind of impacting who he is. The loss of Sadio Mane has been a big deal. They did get a good goal from Darwin Nunez, but that was much needed because they spent a ton of money on him, let Sadio Mane go when he was certainly on their books. It would have been a lot cheaper to extend. I mean, probably was a good decision based on his age, but still, I have big questions about Liverpool right now. Their defense, I mean, gave up a really bad penalty that Allison bailed him out and saved against West Ham midweek. I don't know that West Ham were much of a threat, really, from the match that I watched, but Nottingham Forest won't be either. And what you should expect here is Nottingham Forest to sit in and try to defend their life away as long as they can. Juice is pretty split right now, split actually down the middle. So I'm not sure that the Nottingham Forest +2 looks that likely, especially because the full goal numbers are usually pretty protected and get very juiced if there's anything getting close to that. But I'm waiting for Nottingham Forest to hit +2, and that'll be on my list. I don't think Liverpool have it in them to really beat teams by a lot. I think they're certainly used to playing 2 matches in a week, but it's really, I mean, it's dilapidated their squad so far this season, and ultimately, I just don't see them winning matches handily. So a +2 would require a 3-goal victory to beat me. So I'm interested if Nottingham Forest can climb that +2 number. Next, we have Man City hosting Brighton. Currently, Man City a 2-goal favorite. They've looked pretty dominant in the Premier League so far this season, in Champions League, in every league they play in, they look dominant. And they didn't have to play midweek, which is a big deal for a team that gets some rest in the middle of the week, surprisingly, while Arsenal had to play I guess they were supposed to play Arsenal, but Arsenal had a Europa League match, so that was rescheduled. So pretty nice for the Premier League to cancel that. I'm sure Man City were not complaining, but ultimately a 2-goal favorite. It's a big, big number. But how do you trust Brighton to score right now? And certainly, how do you trust them to score with Manchester City? I don't see it. Unfortunately, Graham Potter, I feel like his luster and his impact on the team is wearing off at light speed, way faster than I was even expecting. Roberto De Zerbi, I mean, he's feeling pressure for not being able to score. That's been a problem for Brighton. It's based on their personnel. Potter was essentially just giving them goals with his possession-based style, but also I think the X's and O's that he was doing, whatever you call that, on the football pitch. But Brighton getting 2 is under Graham Potter. I think I'd be very interested. Not as interested in De Zerbi because I keep waiting for him to go all-out attack. Especially with all these goal scoring issues that Brighton are having. Everton then hosts Crystal Palace, currently a pick'em. Everton pretty heavily juiced right now, and looks like they're trending towards a quarter goal favorite. I don't trust the Everton offense to score at all. Doesn't really seem to matter. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is playing now, but he's in that kind of run of form where he was not doing much, even with Richarlison next to him, creating a lot of opportunity and space for him because everyone's afraid of Richarlison. He's gone. He's at Tottenham, and so are the Everton goals. I think Everton have really rebranded themselves under Lampard as a defensive team. I don't know that was really expected from Lampard in the past, but it's who they are now. Crystal Palace certainly have troubles of their own scoring goals, but if they move to an underdog where a goalless draw will pay me, even if it's half a unit, I'm still very interested in Crystal Palace there because I do think that they have a better offensive attack. Their defense has been, I think, better under Patrick Vieira. If they can avoid giving away handball penalties, that's usually a good start. And how Everton score here, I feel like are a set piece, wild penalty, something like that I just mentioned, or an unlikely run of play goal from Neil Maupay, which just seems like he gets those from time to time. But those are all low XG events, except for the penalty, of course. I guess the penalty is less likelihood, so low probability event. Crystal Palace, if they climb to a quarter, I like them. Chelsea then hosts Manchester United, and Chelsea a quarter goal favorite with all the juice here. I thought this number might be a little bit bigger, but Manchester United have been playing pretty well under Ten Hag. I mean the Grand Canyon between how they started the season where they are now, it's pretty significant. I do think that Casemiro was a big reason for that, but I feel like also there's a lot more attack ability, or a lot more coming from the Manchester United side. Cristiano Ronaldo, I'm actually watching the Manchester United match in the background, walking to the locker room because he's not getting substituted in. I'm sure that's going well, and there's rumors that Marseille wants him and things like that. But in terms of this matchup, Chelsea under Graham Potter certainly will, as I just said with Brighton, he was manufacturing goals for a team that didn't have any talent. That's not the problem with Chelsea, but seeing Aubameyang not starting midweek, I think that speaks a lot to why they were unable to score against Brentford. Certainly a West London derby, if you will, is more for Brentford than it was for Chelsea, and I do think that matters in any type of matchup where the underdog, if they have a little bit more motivation because they think it's a derby and the favorite does not, then that's helpful. But I still don't believe in the Chelsea offense. I got to say, Graham Potter helps that and will build it in certain directions, but I don't think they're that likely to score. Manchester United have been on the avoid list, or more the fade list for me for a while. And I'm not trying to overreact to their performances lately, but they've had some good wins this year after an awful start. I think their defense with Varane and Lisandro Martinez is clearly a lot better than it was with Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof. And so getting that quarter right now is of interest to me. On the road in a tough place to play like Stamford Bridge does give me pause. So I probably want a half of a goal before I seriously consider it. Next, I'll move to Sunday. Aston Villa hosting Brentford. Aston Villa a quarter goal favorite with all the juice right now. Hopefully climbing to a half because I don't believe in them. I don't believe in their offense. I think their defense is okay, but even that's not very strong. And Brentford have started to get some good results. Their defense has really played a lot better. I wonder if that's getting healthier with Pinnock and Ayer back in the lineup. But ultimately, I think there's also some ability. I mean, Ivan Toney has shown that he can give anyone problems, especially the Aston Villa back line. And I just don't really trust Villa to score at all. I mean, maybe Danny Ings can get in there and do something, but that's, I mean, few and far between at this point. Ollie Watkins, I mean, has never met a chance that he wouldn't put over the bar. And I feel like there's some defensive ability at Aston Villa, and the crowd will be big and huge and helpful, but they haven't been playing well. And as a half a goal, potentially a half a goal favorite, I love Brentford, and I like them even at a quarter. Leeds then host Fulham, currently Leeds a half a goal favorite. And that feels pretty respectful considering how Leeds have been playing. Fulham not getting a lot of respect themselves lately. I feel like we're back to maybe this is the newly promoted slump that a lot of teams do end up feeling or having once they get to the big leagues. Because Fulham have started great, they've been aggressive, have I thought played better than I expected, but they've looked a little bit juvenile lately. I mean, giving away some really bad penalties with their zonal marking system off corners. Basically, it cost them the West Ham game, and then things spiraled out of control, and they ended up losing and not even pushing a +1, which was brutal. But I'll take myself out of this. Currently, Fulham with all the juice right now at half of a goal. But I like it at that number. I think Leeds, I mean, with Patrick Bamford starting midweek, he's always an injury question. And I just don't know that Leeds are that trustworthy offensively. They're going to try to create offense by pressing high up the pitch, but I think that also gives Fulham a lot of avenues to their own goal or to the Leeds goal. So getting a half on Fulham right now, I just don't feel like these teams are that different despite the big Leeds home crowd. Southampton then hosts Arsenal, getting a full goal. Arsenal had to play at home against Eindhoven in the Europa League. So that is a little bit different, but at least they played, unlike Man City, who had the entire week off. Southampton had a pretty good win, I got to say. I mean, from being a bottom on the table or in the relegation zone, had a very big win at Bournemouth, which was a big step in the right direction. A little bit of a setback for Bournemouth, but we'll get to them. Southampton, I mean, they've had some really good performances at home over the years. Some of those I think are more memorable than the bad ones, which I'm sure there your odds are back. I'm sure there are plenty of those as well. But I think from where I sit with Arsenal, I don't really believe in them necessarily, but I think that they are. I think they've overperformed their personnel or their ability or really how they played this season. But credit them for that. The points are on the board. They don't come off. I do think asking them to win by multiple goals on the road is asking a lot. But I do think that Southampton are a team that will leave themselves open, and Arsenal certainly can exploit that. I guess I lean to Southampton as we speak, but I probably want more than just that +1, even though a full goal of insurance might be the limit to where we get. Wolves then host Leicester. Currently, Wolves a quarter goal favorite. I mean, two teams that I want to have nothing to do with at this point, really. I think ultimately where Wolves are, I mean, trying to figure out what to do with the new manager, who's pretty unheralded, I think, or they're looking for a caretaker. I wouldn't be shocked if Nuno Espirito Santo comes back. But Leicester, on the other hand, I mean, they can score a little bit more than Wolves can because Wolves cannot, which makes me by default lean to the road team that's catching any sort of price here because 0-0 will pay out to Leicester. The problem is I don't know how Leicester keep a clean sheet. Their defense has been so bad for so long. I feel like they've gotten a little bit more stability, but it's still not something I really trust. About Wout Faes from coming in from Reims he's been playing nonstop, so I feel like that's gone pretty well, and I really liked him in league. Certainly a big step up to the Premier League, but maybe not with Wolves because they don't have much offense to speak of. And anytime Wolves are a favorite, I want to go against them, whether it's Leicester or not, I guess. Tottenham then hosts Newcastle in a big one Sunday night, it looks like, in London, North London. Tottenham currently a quarter goal favorite with all the juice. And I know this has been jockeying between half of a goal and a quarter since I've been watching it. Newcastle, their defense has been awesome. Their goal scoring is questionable for sure. But they're probably going to have a lot of the ball in this matchup because Tottenham have proven that they don't want it at all. They want to counterattack you. And I think that sets them up for bad situations as a favorite. Worse when they're a big favorite. But I feel like the Newcastle defense, Tottenham certainly more used to playing 2 matches in a week, and that's an advantage, especially at home. But the Newcastle defense has been almost impregnable, if I can quote Mike Tyson, and I like it a lot. I feel like their offense is okay, maybe a little less than okay, but Tottenham, I just feel like I don't like them as a favorite, and coming off a pretty disappointing performance at Manchester United, giving up 1 million shots. I mean, that's Certainly, Manchester United have more accomplished finishers than Newcastle, but I don't think that's a recipe for success as a favorite, especially when this one closes. I expect a draw will pay a full bet on Newcastle. Moving to Monday, West Ham hosts Bournemouth. West Ham a 1-goal favorite. And I don't know where that comes from. I mean, they have chances. They can't finish penalties against Liverpool. I mean, I guess good save by Allison, but Skamaka still is not a finished product, and he's basically their goal scorer, goal bringer. Kel Antonio playing like 15 minutes a match now. I think his age is showing, and really just a lack of faith from Moyes, but it's kind of deserved because he hasn't done much for a while. I don't really see West Ham being anything more than a counterattacking, really good defensive side that are going to be really physical, and they're really tall. So there's not going to be a lot of header opportunities. Kiefer Moore, probably not a good use for Bournemouth, but he has been playing a ton lately anyway. I think it's a Solanke matchup and Tavernier, and I feel like that is something that can work for Bournemouth, especially now that they're out of the long unbeaten run was the longest in the Premier League. That is over, but I think it's time for them to start a new streak. And you do get that full goal of insurance just in case they lose 1-0. So going through best bets for England, pick one as the ultimate. I like Nottingham Forest, but I want +2. Not going to mess with Brighton. Would love Crystal Palace at a quarter, but not there yet. I like Manchester United if they get climbed to a half at a quarter. I guess I'm still sort of interested. I like Brentford getting a quarter at Aston Villa. Like Fulham getting a half at Leeds. Southampton, I don't think +1's enough for me at home against Arsenal. I do like Leicester just ultimately fading Wolves when they have to win. Newcastle, I like getting at quarter, but I think we'll get a half. And Bournemouth +1 at West Ham. My best bet for England will be Bournemouth +1. They've been really good to me. I'm glad that they finally had a non-cover when I wasn't backing them, but they've been perfect at really for me. And I think that they are in a great position to counterattack a team that wants to counterattack. Just West Ham is a big favorite. Doesn't make a lot of sense. And with that, that full goal of insurance, it's going to be really hard for me to resist. Now we'll move to Spain, which we don't have anything on Saturday because we had midweek matches. So it's going to be quite a convoluted amount of fixtures across Saturday, Sunday, and I think into Monday. Yes, 1 game Monday. So we'll start with Rayo Vallecano hosting Cadiz. Currently, Rayo a 3/4 goal favorite, and that's a lot for a team that doesn't have much offense. Ultimately, Cadiz has none to speak of. Worst probably in the top 5 European leagues, but they do have a little bit of safety. If on a single goal loss, you only lose half a unit, or half what you risk. I mean, still a concern ultimately because that's still a loss. But when you think about Rayo, they started Falcao midweek. He hasn't been really available for them for much at all this season. So it's hard to see that he'll come back and start this weekend. Without him, they're starting kind of unknown strikers who don't have maybe have a lot of potential, but certainly don't have a lot of history behind them. Cadiz, on the other hand, are just really hard to trust offensively. And when they're under pressure so often because they don't have a lot of the ball, that puts them at big penalty and red card and all those sort of thing risks. Plus, anytime that Ledesma, their goalkeeper, is involved, I've seen too many mistakes from him to make me comfortable. I think the under 2.25 looks a lot better than Cadiz until it hits +1. But I don't see a lot of goals in this one. So that's the way I lean in the early one on Saturday, where legs might be a big problem. I would imagine the Rayo crowd would probably be pretty significant in keeping them as fit and as energized as possible. Doesn't also feel great for Cadiz, but ultimately I feel like we might be running on fumes this one, so I like that under more than Cadiz. Valladolid then hosts Real Sociedad. Currently Valladolid a 1/4 goal underdog at home. All the juice in Sociedad, so this might climb to a half. If it does, I'll become a lot more interested in Valladolid because I think Real Sociedad have kind of proven to be a fringe Champions League, Europa League definitely side in La Liga. I don't think that's changed. I think they spent a lot of money on their team. Injuries have certainly impacted that, along with the loss of Alexander Isak. But I do think that they're better than Real Valladolid, and I think that they have the ability to score, which is the most important thing. Valladolid just their offense has not looked as threatening as I had hoped. I'm sure as they hope as well. Pacheta, I feel like he's not super happy with that. But as it climbs from a quarter to a half of a goal, I'll be more interested in Valladolid, though I do love home dogs, and they've been really good to me so far this season. Valencia then hosts Mallorca. Currently, Valencia a 3/4 goal favorite. I do worry about Edson Cavani's availability because he was a surprise to play in the midweek, and then Valencia with a lead for almost the entire match, unfortunately fell apart at the end, and then had a penalty saved in like the 104th minute or something crazy. A lot of weird stuff going on in Sevilla, but that's what happens when Sevilla has fallen as far as they have. We're rescuing a 1-1 draw at home against Valencia is like a huge step, but we'll get to Sevilla in the next match. I do like Mallorca. They're going to play really defensively. They're going to sit up in a 4-5-1 or 5-4-1 under Aguirre, the Mexican manager, and he's brought a defensive stability to that team that they've needed because their offense has not been great. I don't know if Vedat Marici is available for this one. If he is, that's very important for Mallorca's goal threat. Without him, they're really struggling to score goals. So Marici in, I think I'm more interested in Mallorca. Certainly, I like them at 3/4, would like them a lot more at +1. I'm not sure it gets there. Over under 2.25. I do like under, but not sure that that's enough for me just yet. And certainly without Marici, I think I like it a lot more. Real Madrid then hosting Sevilla, who I just mentioned. Real Madrid, a 1.5 goal favorite. All the juice on Sevilla on the road. I think from where I sit with Sevilla, they're a team that I can't back, really. I think Sampaoli is going to be a huge, and already has been huge for sentiment in Sevilla, in the club, in the stands, really. But these are two teams with completely different balance sheets and abilities. Sevilla had to sell off so many players, I think, due to financial situations, but ultimately, or maybe it's just the contracts coming to ends, and they didn't want to get nothing for a lot of these guys. But they're in a rebuild. Real Madrid are. They reload, they don't rebuild, and unfortunately I feel like Real Madrid, they're going to wear Sevilla down, especially with, I mean, I guess these teams are both been playing 2 matches a week, but I think that's impacted Sevilla a lot more than it has Real Madrid. So even at a goal and a half, I mean, monstrous number compared to, I think, Real Madrid closing a quarter goal favorite at Sevilla last year. So big change in where these teams are, but that's I think an accurate reflection. Moving to Sunday, Espanyol hosts Elche in the morning. I guess the matinee, if you will. Espanyol, a 3/4 goal favorite, which is saying something. They've been playing better lately and certainly are starting to learn how to play together. Cohesion's coming in. Elche, I think, have been playing better lately too. Got screwed in that Valencia match, unfortunately, but I guess it's only close in hand grenades, or I don't know. I'm butchering that analogy, so I'm not even going to go through it. But I think at Elche +1, I'm a lot more interested. I still don't necessarily believe in Jose Lu's ability to completely bail out Espanyol. Their offense still looks pretty questionable, and their goalkeeping's getting a little bit better lately, but that's still a question for me. 2.5 is the over-under. I feel like that's pretty high for these two offenses, so maybe some more value there. Real Betis then hosts Atletico Madrid. Currently, Betis a quarter goal underdog at home with all the juice. But that's saying something, because I don't believe in Atleti. I think anyone who's been listening to this podcast or watching my Twitter account knows that I'm pretty anti this version of Atletico Madrid, who are stuck between being a defensive team and one that wants to push forward, score goals, and win another La Liga title. I feel like winning La Liga has only put them in a more dangerous position. Simeone seems safe, and he's going to be there for a while, but maybe forever. I think Real Betis are not on the same level as Atleti, certainly not in the payroll area, but I feel like I trust Pellegrini as their manager as much as I really can, any manager. And the Benito Villamarin will be filled with people. It's going to be crazy. You're going to have big songs, and they're going to be really mad, and they're going to say talk a lot of junk to the Atleti fans. So I think it's a really great setup to back Real Betis, as both are used to playing midweek, and there's actually less of an advantage here for Atleti because Betis didn't have to play on Thursday night like they do in the Europa League all the time. So I like them there. Girona then host Osasuna, currently a pick'em with Girona as holding all the juice right now. I think if Osasuna move to a quarter goal underdog, I'm interested in backing them because I don't really believe in the Girona offense. At home, certainly will be playing and will have a lot more oomph behind their attack, but I just don't necessarily believe it. Newly promoted as a favorite against teams that have been in the league for a while, that play well defensively and have good managers, I think are generally a good way to be profitable in the sport. Over under 2.25, lean under there. I feel like I lean under in all these matches, but I do like Osasuna if they move to that quarter. Villarreal then hosts Almeria. Villarreal, a 1.25 goal favorite, coming off a taxing match at Barcelona, the last match of the week in La Liga, and then they have to fire it up Sunday and not even the nightcap, I think, based on their opponent. The home crowd hasn't really been much of an impact this season. Unfortunately, they've been playing in their rivals' digs, and that hasn't really helped them. Finally got that win against Osasuna, but ultimately, I think disappointing after a really good start to the year. And I don't even know that you can really blame the Conference League on that because they've been rotating quite a bit and crushing that competition. Almeria on the other side, they're going to try to restrict space and try to make it hard on Villarreal. And Villarreal have made it harder themselves for a while at this point. So I lean to Almeria getting more than a goal at the current 1.25. Barcelona then hosts Athletic Club. Currently, Barcelona a 1-goal favorite. And it's a pretty big number considering they were just 1.25 to Villarreal, who I think are stronger, at least coming into the year. I thought they were the Athletic Club. Athletic Club have been a lot better under Valverde, but I feel like they let one get away with 2 different leads. They surrendered at Getafe. So hard to know how to pronounce the G's in Spain. Getafe, middle of the week. And then Iñaki Williams going down with potentially a back injury at the end of that match, like literally at the death, last final whistle. He hit the turf after skying a shot that he probably should have passed, which probably would have won the match. But anyway, definitely want to see his status. He hasn't missed a match in like 300, but certainly a candidate to potentially come on as a substitute. And if Iñaki's missing, I would hope that his brother Nico Williams, who's less of a polished player, and probably not as fast, but seems to have more of the creative ability, whereas Iñaki's more of the strike piece. I still love Athletic Club. They are going to play defense and try to counterattack. I think that's perfect, especially against a Barca side that are going to, they're going to bomb everyone forward and going to leave Eric Garcia on an island, or PK, and his stones for feet. So Barcelona giving more than a goal to anybody that I like in La Liga right now. I lean the other way, especially with all the drama that's at Barcelona that doesn't seem to ever go away. I mean, maybe if they made some better financial decisions for the last few years, or even now with the Palancas and Spotify Camp Now and all those sort of things, I feel like there's a lot of trouble brewing there. There always seems to be. But giving a full goal of insurance away to a club I really like that has really performed very well for me over the years. I'm very interested in Athletic Club. Last but not least, Monday we have Celta de Vigo hosting Getafe, and currently Celta a 3/4 goal favorite right now. All the juice on Getafe on the road. Vamos Getafe. Pretty good performance midweek. Getafe coming back from 2 different deficits to draw. Unfortunately, drawing, it seems like the best they can do, and trusting them offensively is really hard, especially on the road. Enes Nual seems to be their light bringer, but he's trying really hard. I don't know how much help he's got. I mean, Munir coming off the bench for an equalizer was huge for them, but I don't really know that his goals are something you could trust. Certainly they weren't at Sevilla, though he had some great finishes from time to time, like he did in that midweek match. I don't know. I think Celta, they're going to have a ton of the ball. They're going to have a lot of chances. Iago Aspas, if he's in that lineup, certainly a question at his age, if he's available with 3 matches in 7 days, essentially, or 8 days. But I think I need a +1 on Getafe. I don't think that we're going to get that. And I still even worry about them on the road and Janae taking a really, really strong tackle on someone and then getting a red card and just putting you in a complete drawing dead type situation. At +1, I'm more interested, though. I'll put it that way. I don't even like under, though, unfortunately, because I think Celta can score here, and that's probably one that I want to skip. For best bet for Spain, Cadiz not worth it. I do like under. Valladolid, I want them to climb to a half at the very least. Mallorca, I'd like +1. I do like the 3/4 right now. Nothing on Sevilla. Elche, I like at a +1, but not there yet. I love Real Betis at home, getting that quarter. Osasuna, I'd like to see them climb to that quarter. Almeria over a goal seem worth it. Fading Villarreal right now until they prove otherwise. Athletic Club, I really like +1. And then Getafe, I think I will skip. I like Athletic Club a lot. They're probably a second choice, getting that full goal, though you never know with Barcelona because they can score. Clearly, I'll take Real Betis getting a quarter goal at home as my best bet from Spanish La Liga. We'll move to Italy for Serie A. We do have a Friday match, which hasn't really happened for a while, but here we are. Juventus hosting Empoli. Currently, Juve a 1.25 goal favorite. And it seems like a really big number based on how they've performed for the last month or this entire season, essentially. Empoli has not gotten a lot of respect from the Serie A marketplace, and that's one I think I trust more than any other out there. The German one I think I trust the least. England's usually pretty sharp, but ultimately doesn't scare me that much. I've kind of learned the hard way that the Italian Serie A, when there's a weird line here, you probably want to go that way because they know what they're doing. Definitely been some max fixing before. Not accusing anyone of that in Italy, but certainly it has happened. Empoli getting a goal in a quarter, though. Anything above a full goal with an Allegri managed side is something I'm interested in. I think Empoli have been better. They haven't been the goal scoring team that they were last season, one that really kept them in the league. But I feel like their defense has been better. Their goalkeeper's way more seasoned in Serie A, and he's been, I think, a huge boon for them. Allegri, just when he takes a 1-0 lead, he likes to sit on it and try to kind of take it out, and that wins you half a unit at this point. I think goal scoring is very unlikely in this matchup, especially with Empoli's new kind of focus on defense. So I like Empoli getting 1.25 on Friday. Moving to Saturday, we have Salernitana hosting Spezia. Salernitana, a half a goal favorite. All the juice on Spezia on the road. Salernitana, they've been up and down based on a team that barely stayed in the league last year. Spezia have been bad, unfortunately, and the marketplace has reflected that. I think seeing them as a half a goal underdog on the road at Salernitana says just how bad Spezia are, and might even point this one to a pick 'em at home if this fixture was flipped. That's not a good sign. I do think that that's a little bit selling Spezia low, or they're a little bit underrated now by the marketplace, but their performances certainly haven't suggested anything different. I think I lean to that Spezia half of a goal, but it's very juiced, and they're probably not a team I want to back at this moment until they show something. AC Milan then hosts Monza. Monza getting a ton of respect from the marketplace until this midweek in the Coppa Italia, where they played all reserves, essentially. I get it. They're trying to stay in the league, but that was a funny thing to see. And kind of made sense because Serie A or the Coppa Italia marketplace didn't really give them much of a chance in that one. And then the lineup certainly made that seem like a very prudent or a really smart prediction. Milan, a 1.25 goal favorite to Monza, who certainly have a legs disadvantage here. I don't think Milan played as a lot of the top teams in the Serie A didn't have to play in this round of Coppa Italia. Pretty nice, nice setup. You know, protecting your best side, trying to get them through as far as possible, so you keep the ratings up, I guess. But Milan giving a goal in a quarter, it certainly makes me lean to Monza. But Milan have been very good in Serie A, very bad against the good teams in Champions League. I kind of feel like I've learned my lesson that betting them in Europe and then fading them in Serie A has not worked very well, especially with the legs disadvantage. Fiorentina then hosts Inter Milan. Currently, Fiorentina a half a goal underdog at home in the nightcap on Saturday. All the juice on Fiorentina. Inter Milan, excuse me, just talked to AC Milan. Now Inter, they have not been the same team that we were expecting them to be, though they look pretty primed and ready to move on in the Champions League, which is huge for them. I think Fiorentina's goal scoring has been a big problem. I think that they're trying to balance Conference League. That's probably impacting their goal scoring in Serie A a little bit. But I don't even know that a half a goal home dog is enough for me to want to get involved here, because I think Inter can score, will score. I don't know that I trust Fiorentina to do it. They're getting a little bit healthier. Nico Gonzalez is really important getting back in the fold for them, but I just don't know that they're trustworthy enough offensively that I can take less than a goal from Inter, because they, I think, are going to be trustworthy to score, and they're in pretty good shape for Champions League, so I don't really have too much of a concern that they'll be resting anybody. Moving to Sunday, Udinese hosting Torino. Currently, Udinese a half a goal favorite with all the juice in Torino, which is a bit surprising, but Udinese did play in Coppa Italia midweek. Torino just really haven't been good enough for me. They're going to try to possess the ball, which leaves them open to an Udinese team that's been a lot more offensive this year. I just think there's a lot of problems in Torino's side. So I like Udinese, and I don't really want to fade them at this point. Bologna then hosts Lecce, giving a quarter of a goal, which seems really, really short to me. But I've been on Lecce a bunch lately. They've been kind of closing with plus money numbers on a quarter on, I think, Monday of this week. And then I think their Monday before against Roma were plus money at +1. And they fought their way, equalized on with a red card of 10 men versus 11 at Roma, and then ended up losing late, but ultimately getting my money returned to me, which is very important. They kind of hung on for dear life against Fiorentina, but did it and profited half a unit plus the odds that were given when you split that in two. So I like Lecce. I feel like they played really competitively so far this entire Serie A season. Bologna have changed managers, trying to get more offense in their team. but I haven't seen it. And I think that explains why they're only a quarter goal favorite to a team that just got promoted. But I don't really believe in Bologna at this point. Arnautovic seems like he's been figured out by Serie A. He's still a huge impact player, but I don't know that he's enough alone because it feels like he's alone. Atalanta then hosts Lazio, and another number I was kind of surprised by, Atalanta giving half of a goal, which is a lot. I mean, I think this tells us that Ciro Immobile is out with a hamstring injury, which is a big deal. Lazio score goals, and he's a huge part of that. Atalanta have been really good, not having to worry about European competitions this year. I think from where I sit in this one, I love Lazio getting half of a goal because I think it's higher than it should be. But certainly want to see that injury list and see kind of what they're kind of looking for in this matchup based on their starting lineup. Current juice, though, doesn't make me feel like it's dropping to a quarter just yet. Even there, I feel like any sort of number Lazio are getting any sort of price as an underdog is worth it because their defense has been so good. And maybe that's the impact finally of Maurizio Sarri. For the nightcap on Sunday, Roma hosts Napoli in a huge matchup. These were two teams that were kind of getting treated and based on their transfer windows, were going opposite directions before the season kicked off. Well, Roma haven't lived up to those lofty expectations, maybe because they're too lofty, while Napoli have really loved the lowered expectations because they've been smashing everybody. Champions League, I mean, doing the best you can do. Pretty impressed by them overall. Roma getting a quarter right now at home with all the juice. Maybe this falls to pick them. It's probably an appropriate number. I think these teams are a little bit more equal than the results have shown so far this year. But you are what your results say you are. And Napoli are a team I don't want to fade. So as a road favorite, I'm more interested in fading Napoli, but kind of hoping this closes pick them so I don't even have to think about it. But I do lean to Roma right now, getting that quarter, though I'm not sure it's a strong lean. Moving to Monday, Cremonese hosting Sampdoria. Cremonese a pick 'em with all the juice. Currently, they were previously a quarter goal favorite, so some Samp money has been pushing that down, likely because I think Cremonese did play Coppa Italia midweek. Two teams that aren't very good, and I guess I lean to the underdog when it comes back to a quarter. I imagine it would before kickoff, but even then, Sampdoria just are really not a team I want to back, whether Cremonese look like a team that can win matches or not. They had a good comeback and a draw in their last Serie A match, but I guess they're a team if you're looking to go against a team that's pretty unlikely to score, I think Cremonese does fit that bill. The Sampdoria are scary to put any money behind, especially on the road. Sassuolo then hosts Verona in the nightcap on Monday. Sassuolo a half a goal favorite, and that's a lot, but Verona have been hated by the marketplace for a long time. I'm not sure that it's really paid off. I feel like Verona have done and outperformed and probably beat the market quite a bit so far this year, but there's not been a lot of respect for them. And I don't know necessarily that Sassuolo are the team to really exploit them. Verona's defense just seems pretty bad. Their offense doesn't really score a lot of goals, hence the problems. But Sassuolo, I mean, they have a lot of young talent. That's what they do. They're basically the Dortmund, I think, of Italian football. A little bit different because Dortmund is in the title race, quote unquote, each season. Title race, if you're watching me live, but I gotta say, Verona getting a half seems too high to me. So going through for a best bet in Italy, I really like Empoli getting 1.25 today on Friday. Spezia seem too high, but I'm not sure I want them just yet at a half. Monza, I'm worried about playing midweek, though they did rest quite a bit. Just fading Milan seems a little bit scarier than I'd like. Fiorentina getting a half from Milan doesn't feel like enough. Same with Torino at half at Udinese. I do like Lecce getting that quarter at Bologna. Also, Lazio getting a half from Atalanta, but I want to see what that lineup looks like. I'm expecting no Ciro Immobile. Roma, I like at the current underdog, plus 1/4. Those very juiced, and I'd probably rather skip. Sampdoria, I'm waiting for them to hit that quarter. And Verona, I do like getting a half. But for my best bet for Serie A, I'm going to take Lecce. Keep riding them, getting a quarter at Bologna. Seems like a pretty small price, but I think that's respect from the marketplace, and I think that respect is deserved. Now we'll move to the Bundesliga. Mainz hosting Köln on a Friday matchup. Mainz a quarter goal favorite, and I don't know how you can make them a favorite against anyone with a pulse right now. That's actually not fair, but a European team like Köln, who got the midweek off, finally got to rest some players, but still have been playing pretty well, I think, in the Bundesliga while they're balancing two competitions. Mainz don't have that, but their goals have really dried up. Jonathan Burkhardt hasn't really been around, and that's been a problem for them. The 0-5 was the null Fias, or excuse me, null Fumfs. Sorry, Nolfios are a different team. Anyway, or I guess two different teams possibility. I like Cologne getting that quarter. I think that they are, I mean, they're still the same offense, even though they don't have Anthony Modeste anymore. Stefan Tigges was really good in the last matchup. Florian Dietz, the younger striker, I feel like they're a decent rotation, though it seems like Tigges has got to start this matchup. I just feel like Mainz is a favorite. They've been getting a fair amount of respect from the Bundesliga marketplace, but I don't really necessarily agree with it, nor have I this entire season. And I think as all the juice or most of the juice right now is on the Mainz side, so I imagine it might even climb a little bit. So Cologne, I'm very interested in this Friday afternoon here in the U.S. Moving to Saturday, Bayer Leverkusen, one of those Nolfios that are out there, hosting Wolfsburg, currently Leverkusen, a 3-quarter goal favorite. And it's been pretty up and down performances for Xavi Alonso as the new manager, partly based on their competition. Porto smashed them, whether that was deserved, I'm not sure. They smashed Schalke, which I think was deserved, but Schalke look like they are a relegation candidate right now. I'm interested in going against Leverkusen, especially because they have to beat me by 2 to take my full unit. Certainly, I don't like losing, but I do feel like that's enough safety for me on Wolfsburg, especially because the number's a lot bigger than I expected. Wolfsburg have not been great this year. I don't really know if Niko Kovac is going to last too long. He's trying to make them more offensive. Their defense has usually been their calling card. It's not been as strong. But Yannick Gerhardt has been really hot, like flame emoji on fire. And I like that a lot more than I like Patrick Schick or whatever's in the Leverkusen lineup. So Wolfsburg getting 3/4 is interesting to me. Borussia Dortmund, a 1-goal favorite to VfB Stuttgart. Dortmund, I mean, Gregor Kobel with a huge mistake. It's going to try his best not to let that happen against his old club, Stuttgart. But Dortmund is a 1-goal favorite. Makes me want to go against them. I don't really trust them, believe in them, like them very much. I did go to their match a few weeks ago, a month ago now, and it was very tight against a very bad Schalke team. So I mean, all the Scheisse Nolfias chants that were out there, excuse my Deutsch, but that was a fun thing to see. Not a lot to do with Dortmund town, but I'll leave that to the side, unfortunately. I think Stuttgart, it's hard to trust them to score. I mean, they put a lot past Bochum this past weekend, but that's probably a Bochum thing. I think there was some good fortune there, but if Silas is going to be able to be that threat that he was and is finally healthy, that's a huge thing for Stuttgart under a new manager. I don't know, that full goal of insurance always tempts me. But Dortmund at home in front of the yellow wall, the squads to Gelben are tough in that venue. So maybe it's one I try to skip. Augsburg then hosts RB Leipzig. Currently Augsburg, a 1-goal underdog at home. And they've shown they can win matches like these. I mean, they keep beating Bayern at home. But they have to deal with a Leipzig team that's going to be better rested because Augsburg did play their full lineup against Bayern München in the midweek. I think Leipzig have shown on the road, though, their offense is pretty quiet, and their defense is never. I mean, I think against Augsburg, they're going to limit Augsburg's chances, but I think 1-0 is a very likely result here, and I like that push on Augsburg. I guess that makes me lean under as well, though I feel a little bit less comfortable with that one. I think Augsburg +1 though is definitely on the list. Hoffenheim, and then they host Bayern München, which I can't help it. If you're watching on Twitter or StreamYard, I went into nothing to do in Munich, or I just wandered around. I stumbled upon the Bayern store. I was like, oh, let's see what's in here. And I was surprised by how many Musiala shirts were for sale, but I guess that's the future. And everyone probably has a Thomas Müller shirt already. But Bayern, they've been pretty up and down this year, I think, by their standards. They smashed Freiburg last weekend, though Freiburg coming off Europa League with at least 1 day less of rest. That was unfortunate for them. But from where I sit with Hoffenheim, they're a great home team. They don't really get huge crowd support there, so it's kind of hard to explain why they're so much better in Sinsheim than they are other places. But getting a goal in a quarter is a big number from Bayern, even if it is Bayern. I think Hoffenheim, I want to make sure that Kramaric is available in that lineup. Jorginho Rutter has been very wasteful with his chances so far. But I love Angelino. That signing from Leipzig was so underrated when they gave away Rom, who's certainly the better talent for the future. But I think Hoffenheim are better. They have a manager who came in from FC Zurich, who did a really great job to kind of surprise and win the Swiss League last year. So I feel like there's a lot of pedigree in the Hoffenheim side. Certainly I do worry about their defense against Bayern Munchen, but I feel like it's been better than it's been for the past few seasons. Maybe the results haven't been there for Hoffenheim as of late, but getting a goal in a quarter, it's hard for me to look away at this point. At Sports Club Freiburg then host Werder Bremen, currently Freiburg a half a goal favorite. Finally didn't, I guess they had both, I think all of these teams had DFB Pokal midweek, but that's, I guess Freiburg now are used to those things. Werder Bremen probably aren't. And that's probably a big advantage for Freiburg, especially playing at home. Christian Streich, I mean, I'm sure they're going to want to put out a performance after that disastrous result against Bayern. I think half of a goal feels like a pretty big number for Freiburg to lay based on kind of how the team's been rated for the past few seasons, but they've been killing it lately, and they've been really deserving these numbers, and I've been really doing poorly fading them. Still a great team to back, but Werder Bremen, on the other hand, they've scored a ton of goals. They've looked really good up front with Dorsch and with Fulkrug, and I think that was not really expected coming into the year, and maybe they will have a lull eventually, but until it happens, I believe in them. So I lean to Werder Bremen, gave that half of a goal, but not sure it's that close to being played. Borussia Mönchengladbach then hosts Eintracht Frankfurt. Currently, Mönchengladbach a quarter goal favorite at home with all the juice on Frankfurt. Gladbach haven't been a great road team, but here they're at home. We'll have a huge Die Fohlen crowd behind them, chanting Die Fohlen, Die Fohlen, and then ultimately the Falke Elf will be out there doing the best they can. Frankfurt, they travel really well, but I think in Germany it's less impactful than it is in Europe. I do like them getting a quarter because I feel like they haven't really been getting a lot of respect. I mean, closing an underdog to Leverkusen last weekend, albeit at Pick'em, but or being an underdog for a lot of the week was pretty disrespectful, and they paid that off in droves. Gladbach, I feel like as a quarter goal favorite, it's just a venue type of price, and that makes me want to back Eintracht Frankfurt because while the venue does matter, I don't think it matters that much. Moving to Sunday, Bochum hosting Union Berlin. Currently, Bochum a half a goal underdog at home. And they've been, I think they're a team now that it might just be you need to avoid them on the road. Even if they go to a team like Stuttgart who can't score, they let 4 go by. I mean, I don't think that was a fair result necessarily, but eventually I'm going to have to learn that Bochum just they didn't invest in their club. Their manager's gone. They're just a team that looks like they're relegation fodder at this point. And that makes it really hard to back them against Union Berlin, even when FC Union are on the road and they haven't really shown a lot of offense in that type of situation. They are a great home team. The Eisernen have a huge crowd, but they won't have that here. I guess that forces me to lean Bochum and also to lean to that under 2.25. I feel like that's if you're playing, if you have a Bochum interest, I think you're playing under 2.25 as opposed to that half of a goal. Because I think a 1-0 result, Union Berlin's way is very likely. Last but not least, Hertha Berlin hosts Schalke, and Hertha are a 3/4 goal favorite, which is monstrous. They can't win matches, so it makes you really like Schalke here. I don't think this is going to hit +1, but I feel like I need it to in order to play. Under 2.75 also seems worth it. Hertha Berlin have been playing so well, and they're a team I love and want to back a lot. They fight their way back into matches. I mean, coming back from 3-0 down to Leipzig on the road and covering the spread, getting inside that number, losing 3-2 was monstrous. And I think it speaks to who Hertha Berlin are under this new manager. I think Schwarz has been great for them. Unfortunately, they have to win here, and big sigh. Sorry for everyone listening if that was too loud, but that's kind of how I feel about Hertha as a big favorite. I don't like it. I kind of want them to lose here and then get some more value, though I do think that'll make their fragile psyches even worse for trying to back them next week. But Schalke getting 3/4 of a goal seems too high for me based on the inability to score, or not really inability to score, but inability to win. And I do think that's something that you need, and something that's not something you have to learn, and you don't just get it. So Friday, we'll go through the German Bundesliga and find best bets for here. I do like Cologne getting a quarter, FC from Mainz. Moving to Saturday, I like Wolfsburg getting 3/4, Stuttgart getting that +1. That's probably one I will probably skip due to venue. I like Augsburg getting that +1 at home from Leipzig. Hoffenheim 1.25 at home. A lot of home dogs here. Werder Bremen getting a half on the road at Freiburg is of interest. And I do like Frankfurt getting a quarter at Gladbach. I think Bochum under is the way to go in that one, or 2.25. Got even money right now at Bet Online, so that might be worth it. And Schalke, if they hit +1, I don't think I can avoid it. 3/4, I don't think I'm ready to make that my best bet for the entire country. So for my best bet for this episode in the Bundesliga, I'm going to go with Wolfsburg getting 3/4 of a goal from Bayer Leverkusen. I do think that a loss certainly in play here, but that would require Leverkusen to take advantage and play well at home, and they just haven't done it. So I like Wolfsburg. You only lose half a unit if they lose by a single goal. Certainly not something I want to do. You don't want to lose, but that's a little bit more insurance than I think they deserve. So playing that little difference between my number and theirs. Last but not least, we're going to go through the French Ligue 1 and then go through, summarize our best bets from each country and give an ultimate best bet, which I believe won in the last episode, but I've done a terrible job of recording what they all were. Ajaccio hosts PSG in the Friday matchup. Ajaccio, a 1.5 goal underdog, seems very cheap to me, though PSG have been a very good team to fade recently. I feel like they haven't covered the spread in a long time, maybe 4 or 5 matches going back. Don't really want to look it up as I'm doing this, but Ajaccio, the problem is their goal scoring is non-existent. PSG has a lot of it. Over under 2.75 seems low. I think this could be a real beatdown, even on the island. It's Ajaccio on a shared island, Corsica, I believe, shared between Italy and France. But my European geography is not perfect. Ajaccio, I'm not going to back. Montpellier then hosts Lyon. Currently, Montpellier, a 0.5 goal underdog at home. I don't know how to back them, really. Lyon have been a team that certainly looked like a team that we should fade as well. New manager came in. Finally, they gave up Peter Bosch, which it's amazing to me that he still gets jobs. He should be sitting somewhere in the Eredivisie in his homeland, I think. Montpellier, though, have not been good enough. And it's sad because they had so much talent and they've basically given it all away. They're still in the league, but I feel like they're hanging on for dear life. Marseille then hosts Lens. The Sang et Or, the Blood and Gold. Awesome. Met one of them, one of their fans at a music festival in Chicago. Shout out to, I don't remember your name, but if you're somehow listening to this podcast, I appreciate the support. Marseille, a quarter goal favorite. Played PSG pretty tightly. We're pretty fortunate. I think Pau Lopez was awesome. I don't know that he'll have 2 performances like that or maybe ever again. But a really casual turn by Erit, who doesn't seem to make mature decisions all the time. Former Schalke man. Unfortunately, he tried to do this really lame turn, try to pull a little sleight of hand, and PSG punished them, scored the goal, won the match on that mistake. I think that will be replayed over and over in Igor Tudor's mind. But he also showed his bold ability, his cojones, his high pressing PSG for 85 minutes, it felt like, was wild. But that shows that they're willing to do it against anybody. Lons are also have a kind of similar. When your colors are blood and gold, you kind of have to, I think, play the Cavalier type of mentality. So 2 teams that are going to go for it here. Marseille, a quarter goal favorite right now, most of the juice right now. Also, I'd love to see Lens move to a 0.5 goal underdog because they're a team as an underdog that I want to back every time. Fofana is so good in the middle. Honestly, if I was picking a favorite French team, I think the colors don't really work so well for this complexion, but Lens getting a quarter of a goal at Marseille. I love them. They've been so good to me financially. They have the spirit that you want. They have a huge home crowd, which you're going to miss here. And it's going to be tough against the Marseille, the Orange Velodrome. That's going to be a tough spot. But I would love for that to tick that number to 0.5 goal because I will back Lens. At a quarter, I still like it. I think Marseille are good, but I don't think they're this much better than the rest of the competition. They're playing really well and they're high up the league on table, but Lens are there too, and I think it's deserved. And I think as an underdog, I think a draw on the road is something that they can certainly pull off. Moving to Sunday, Angers hosting Stade Rennais. Currently, Angers, a 3/4 goal underdog at home with all the juice. They're just not a team I can back right now. Rennes have been playing a lot better lately. Whether the performances have fully deserved it, I'm not sure. It was crazy to see them give up so many equalizers to Lyon, but they got a big win last weekend, and I think that's a huge thing for them moving forward. Reims and host Angers. Reims, a 0.5 goal favorite at home, which is too big of a number. I don't really know where this one comes from. Maybe I'm a little bitter because Stade de Reims, the Champagne club. They fired um, Oscar Garcia, who I loved, who was so good to me last year. The team wasn't the same this year. They sold off a lot of their guys. Unfortunately, Wout Feist went to Leicester. They lost Pedro Rakovic to Mallorca, their goalkeeper. And unfortunately, and Ekitike, I think, left for PSG. They did bring in some players, but it hasn't been the same. I'll share. I lean to getting half of a goal because I think it's really hard to trust Rems. Despite the new manager bounce they've had and a little bit of an uptick lately, I still don't know that they deserve to be a half a goal favorite. I think they were 3/4 the last time I looked, so this is coming down a little bit, and I think it should. I'll share their defense has been, I think, all that they have so far. Their offense has been problematic, so maybe that under 2.5 is more worth it. There are so many red cards in Ligue 1, though. They keep mentioning it on the broadcast, but it's bad when the broadcasters who are there just to slurp Ligue 1 are mentioning it. That's a concern, but ultimately I do like Alger getting that half of a goal. Clermont Foot then hosting Brest. Currently Clermont a quarter goal favorite at home. Brest, great position last week to catch Nantes. Took a lead, and then the refs were really, really against Brest, and I think the Nantes crowd deserve a lot of credit for that. Some really shady calls. One handball that was definitely a Brest player's mistake, though I thought it might have hit his chest, not his outstretched arm. And then a crazy, really soft penalty that was upheld by VAR, because VAR just continues to live to just piss me off. More so in La Liga, but it's happened in Liga as well. But Brest were in a good position and didn't really get the result that they should have. New manager got them off to a great start, but then ultimately wasn't good enough. Clermont Foot, on the other hand, have not gotten a lot of respect from the marketplace this year. They sold Mohamed Bayo to Lille, and that was really their goal scoring guy. They've had a lot more goals, I think, this year than a lot of people would expect, and I think have been outperforming market expectations. But it's a little bit different in the favorite role. Certainly they're a favorite because they're at home. But I lean to Brest getting that quarter of a goal. Toulouse then hosts Strasbourg. Currently Toulouse a quarter goal favorite. And this seems really cheap to me. Strasbourg finally broke their duck, got their win, I think a couple weekends ago. But they aren't really a good team. I have big questions about their defense, my questions are answered that they love getting yellows and second yellows, or just reds in general. I think Toulouse have been awesome ever since coming up from Ligue 2. They were champions last season. They've been really, really good. And I believe in them. So I'm not fading them with only a quarter of a goal on a team like Strasbourg, despite the good performance last year and their finish in the table. Troyes then hosts Lorient, as the Lorient betting express continues. Choo choo. I'm still on it. Troyes giving a quarter of a goal to the team sitting second in the table. Yes, it's all results-based handicapping, blah, 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 blah. Let that go. Sure. Lorient are great. They're probably missing Tara Mulphy to an ankle sprain in this matchup. I think that's already been confirmed. I was reading some Nigerian posts because he's Nigerian, and they already seemed like they knew he was out. And that speaks to a little bit of why Lorient's an underdog here, but they were an underdog to, I think it was to Brest a couple weeks ago. Brest, who just fired their manager after they finally gave up. Troyes is a favorite here. Doesn't make any sense. I'm all the juice on Lorient at the moment. I'm going to make sure I don't lose that one, but so an AKA as soon as this hits -130 or something like that, I'm playing Lorient, knowing Malfi's going to be out. I don't know if other absentees, but Troyes have been okay this season, but Lorient have been great, and I love the Lorient setup. I don't think it's a fluke. Nice then hosts Nantes. Currently Nice a half a goal favorite. Feels a little bit big to me for Nice and how they've played, but ultimately Nantes have been a disaster until this past weekend. They have been, look like Kumbare might be out of his job despite winning the Coupe de France just last year. They've been bad in Europa League. They've been bad in Ligue 1. I think really struggling to balance two competitions, and I stupidly have been backing them a lot this season at a half of a goal. I don't think I'll do it here, but if the number climbs back to the 3/4 I saw earlier, I'll be a lot more interested. And last but not least, the nightcap, Lille hosts Monaco in a really good meeting. Two teams fighting to try to get into Champions League positions. Lille outperforming expectations considerably. Monaco have been really good lately, though they do love their red cards at home. Really affected their last match against Clermont Foot. But Lille, a pick 'em with all the juice right now. Not much for me to do when everything's at pick'em, but I do think if Monaco move to an underdog, that'll be a play I'm interested in, because they've had really good road success going back towards the end of the last season. And I think a lot during this year. I think they're weaker at home because they get they give more of a price because of it, and they don't get a lot of support there. There's a lot to do in Monaco. And I guess when you're spending all the money to be there, you don't want to sit in a football stadium. But for the best bet in France, then I'll go through the other top leagues and then pick you out an ultimate best bet. Ajaccio skipping, Montpellier skipping. I do like Lens getting a quarter of a goal, and I would love them if they climb to a half. Probably will still play a quarter. Angers, not worth it. Angers, I do like at Reims because I just don't think Reims deserve that big of a half goal favorite. Brest, I like at Clermont Foot, but I got some questions about them to say the least. Strasbourg, not high enough. Lorient, I do love even without Terra Molfi. He's a big absence. I'll put it that way, especially after they sold Loriente to Sassuolo, but still. Nantes not big enough at a half, and Monaco waiting for that to hit a quarter. For my best bet for France, probably not a surprise if I just gloss all over them, or worse. Lorient getting a quarter of a goal on the road at Troyes. I understand it feels like a trap, but I'm not worried about stepping the trap because I feel like Lorient are a better team. They play a counter-attacking style that is going to put them in a good position to defend Troyes, who are limited offensively. And I think Lorient on the break are really, really scary. And a draw wins half a bet. So Lorient getting that quarter will be my best bet for Ligue 1. In the German Bundesliga, I'm going Wolfsburg plus 3/4 at Leverkusen. In Serie A, I really like Empoli, but I didn't pick that as my best bet. I went with Lecce at Bologna, which I do like that one too. In Spanish La Liga on the weekend, no Friday match here. I went with Betis at home, getting a quarter from Atletico Madrid. And in the Premier League, my best bet was doing this all live. It's hard to remember them all, but my best bet was Bournemouth getting a full goal from West Ham. For my best bet, so Bournemouth +1, Real Betis +1/4, Lecce +1/4, Wolfsburg getting 3/4, and last but not least, Lorient getting a quarter. Those are the top 5 best bets for each of the leagues. My ultimate best bet, drum roll. Not sure how that sounds on a podcast, but anyway, drum roll, please. I'm gonna go with Bournemouth getting +1, full goal of insurance on the road at West Ham. I think there's a good chance that one pushes, but also a good chance that Bournemouth can get a draw there. I don't see it win as very likely, but ultimately against West Ham, I'm not that scared of that offense. So I'll go Bournemouth +1 as my best bet for this episode. Again, I'm going to have a promo code at BetOnline under this podcast or in the podcast description. If you don't have an account there, great for reduced juice and also the earliest lines if you're an opener player. But you can follow me on Twitter, @the_real_G Warner. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe if you're on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, anything to get myself out there. I'd appreciate it, and will hopefully allow for me to have some co-hosts, sponsor some other things, get some other deals going, all that sort of stuff. The more you help me, the more I help you. Hope this was entertaining. Gave you more than an hour, probably more than you want, but fast forward to the best bets at the end. If you already have, thanks for listening. I appreciate you. No matter how many minutes you're spending with me, I appreciate it. And I look forward to another winning weekend.